마통사, 마탕만 step by step 상마통사. company 정보를 내가 지나? 갈리 내가 지금 career ladder 도처를 삼스라. 그래서 guaranteed 이네 ceiling the cap 열었다.
Really?
ceiling the gams 마시메. 아니 company 총알 도도갈라? 아니 군저 equity data stocks.
Really?
stock 되나? 안저 percentage 빼준지로 data. company 빼 총보잖아. millionaire도 차 chance라. The percentage 빼준지 1%, less than 1% of the company. 아니 nga 가도 내가 지나. nga 니마 딱 바곤다 내가 지 weekend 내가 지 지나. nga 추가 디금 스타일이라. nga CEO 추가 10 times.
Yeah.
But upside.
Really?
아니 nga samla tamdo gala di kare samsana nga risk digo. I want to take the equity risk. Upside tamago, downside at tamago. 그래. 약부 배차나 nga 깔래 빼기하나? 아니 nga라 야가 차도야. nga 깔래 막이나? 아니 nga랑 약부 참아도야. 그래.
Really?
I definition samlangia. That's risk equity profile.
First of all, thank you so much for coming to this podcast. So we personally know each other from like GTPN. We did a bunch of hackathons, actually 2 hackathons together. So we personally know each other, but for our audience, would you be able to give a brief introduction of yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Ngawang Tseten. I was born in Nepal, but I moved to New York when I was 6 years old. So I've been in New York almost all my life. Kind of grew up here, went to school, studied finance, did finance for a while, worked at Morgan Stanley, did a wealth management research, did a little bit of a sales and trading internship, but eventually was more back in research. Did that for about 3-4 years. And then around that time, I was really interested in like machine learning and AI. That was also the time when like Facebook had their whole like Cambridge Analytica scandal.
Oh,
yeah. It was like, yeah. And I think it might've been the first year that, was it the Harvard review or something was like data science is the #1 job or something like that. And right around that time, I got really interested in data science. So I switched over, did a boot camp for about 3 months. And then since then, I've been working in data science, worked in advertising. So like programmatic, essentially like all of the targeting, how you get like all your creepy ads. Like I would like help with that. Did that for, I think another 3 years. And then I switched over and I worked more in a smaller startup called Citizen. Citizen is, there's the bank, which is not the one that I worked at. It's Citizen, the safety platform. So it's mostly prevalent in America and let's say like bigger cities like New York. And essentially what we did was we would like listen to police radio and then we would try to identify which were like actual things that might be useful for people to get notified on. And then we would send you notifications to like help you with your safety. Like if there was a car crash nearby or if there was like a fire, we would send you notifications so that you would be aware of that.
No, nice.
Yeah, and then I guess I did that for about almost a year and a half, almost 2 years. And then I left to start my own company this year. So working on that as well.
I also use the app, the Citizen. It's pretty handy. Like it's pretty much tells me about like everything happening around me, like theft or maybe car crash or stuff like that. So yeah. So that's essentially that was like part of my job, which was I helped build the machine learning algorithms. And essentially what we did was it's like a classification test, which is like, is this something that we should send to our users or ignore? And we listen to, I think every day is like hundreds of hours of police radio. And actually about like 95-96% of it is just noise. Like it's useless information. It's just like, hey, I'm here, we're here. Like, you know what I mean? Like police just talking to each other or just like some, we call it police chatter. And then 5% of it is like things that we would actually want to notify our users, you know, like, oh, there's a gas odor, you know, maybe we should be careful, like fire nearby. Oh, there was a car crash. There was a possible shooting, different things along those lines. So that was like 5% of it. Oh, yeah. I wouldn't be able to like know if it's legal to listening police radio?
Yeah, it is legal. It's all public. It's public information. So essentially how the company got started was like the CEO was just, he was really interested, and he just like set up a bunch of these radio scanners. So he would just like scan the radio and then would take that information and like start sending out notifications. So essentially kind of like a vigilante Batman style. And then it kind of like progressed into like a much bigger scale company.
Right.
But yeah, it's all public information, and it has to be public because they want they want the police to be accountable, so that they're not doing like any suspicious things. So it's yeah.
So about your own startup, so what is it about?
Yeah. So my own startup. So just kind of like some context is my background. Like I mentioned, I was working in finance.
Right.
So I used to work in wealth management research. So like macro, studying the markets, as well as I was a licensed financial advisor, which means that I was allowed to give financial advice on investments and different things to like clients. So through that process, I learned a lot more about the finance, wealth management, investments, and strategies. And then I switched over to data science, which is more like machine learning, analyzing data and trying to like predict trends and different things. So I kind of like combined those two. So now I'm working on a fintech platform. And I guess a third leg that I wanted to combine is almost like our Tibetanness, or like our, like the Himalayan society.
Right.
And so just kind of cut to it. It's my company is called My Duty, or Duti, and it's essentially based off of the Dhukuti platform.
Oh.
Yeah. So essentially what we're aiming to do, and it's still in the process, but we're trying to get online Dhukuti set up. And it's something that I've done a lot of research on. I've been working with it. And how do I give you some more context on this? So I guess for people that are aware or are not aware, Dhukuti is essentially a group of people. They get together and they'll put together a sum of money.
Right.
And let's say there was 10 people, then the basic example is that you would do a lottery system, and then one person in that circle would win that money. And then you would just keep going. If you've already won the money, you can't collect it again. And then you just go until all 10 people have won. And essentially, it's a way for people to get a lump sum of money, which would be hard, especially for like immigrants and people with lower credit scores, to get it from a bank. So this provides, especially in the New York Tibetan community, and I'm sure it's like across the world, but it's provided a lot of resources for Tibetans and Nepalese to buy houses. So you need a big down payment. So that's a tough lump sum. I think the entire Jacksonite community and any other like Tibetan communities where they started a lot of restaurants, they use that lump sum as like the investment money to start the business. So it's been really good. It's been a Kickstarter for a lot of different communities, not just the Tibetan, actually. It's like Tibetan, Nepali, and a bunch of different ones. So yeah, but the one of the main problems is just that it runs on cash, and the cash-based system, there's actually nothing illegal about Dhukuti. It's called the Rotating Savings and Credit Association, so it's all like legal, but there's different processes that when it is transferred through cash, that makes it a little bit illegal. So I'm working on trying to essentially keep it above the board and make the transference of money much easier.
Yeah. Actually, I have like 2 Dhukutis. So actually, I'm going to dropping some money in Jackson Heights today. So I'll be driving like to almost like 1.5 hours in traffic, and it's a lot of work if you do in cash, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So I have to go there, give the cash, and then there's a bidding process in that setup. So we have to do some bidding process and know who wins it, and then come back. So every month it's gonna be a trip, and then there's costs associated with the restaurants where you gather, right? places, venues you
Yep.
gather. So there are costs associated with it. So making it online would be such a good idea.
Yeah, I think some of the key risks, like you're saying, one is the convenience. So like you're in you have to travel, what is it, like 45 minutes you drive, like an hour drive or whatever?
Yeah, I'll drive, but in traffic it's
so let's say you do that once a month. If you're playing in two separate ones, that would probably be twice a month you have to do that.
Yeah.
Let's say you can't make it for some reason. Then what do? You would have to then call your friend or family member, and they would have to go drop it off. If you actually sit and I've been kind of like participating in some of these as well, and if you just watch people, they almost never come in with just one like Dhukuti payment.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like, this is for me. No, it's like they come in with like 5 or 6 people, and they're like, yeah, like this person told me to give it, and this person told me to give it, and this person told me to give it. And then on the back end, essentially what that means is someone is either sending you money, or you have to take the risk of paying for that person until you get repaid from that person later on. So now that becomes like a counterparty risk, because you have this other person is like you're loaning them money. So there becomes a much bigger like complicated process. Then the third issue is, let's say it depends on how big these groups are, but now at these restaurants, if you win, you're given this like essentially like a bag of like let's say $100,000, $50,000, $60,000, whatever it is. So now you have to take that cash home.
Yeah.
And that in itself is a safety risk.
Right.
I mean, I don't think a lot of people have gotten like robbed, but I've heard that it has happened before. And I definitely know for sure that like when some of my aunts have won money, or even any family member, like they'll just call me to be a body and be like, hey, can you show up and just like, can you help us? And I'm like, if someone comes with a gun or a knife, like what are we supposed to do? Like I'm not trained, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
So in that sense, there's a safety risk. And then the last issue is, let's say now you already have this lump sum of cash back home. Now, how do you bring that money back into the banking system? Like if you want to cash it in to buy a house, or it has to go back in the banking system. And that is where there is some gray area of the current system. And that's kind of like one of the issues, because for you to keep putting your checks in, or like cashing that thing, the banks are tracking, and you can only put about, I think it's like 10,000 in a week or 2 weeks or something like that. So you have to like slowly deposit it. So that takes a lot of time. The other option is you have to like get people to write you checks. And then, how many people can you keep asking for checks after a while? Like your family members can only gift you so much money.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, these are some of the problems. And I think an online Dhukuti system would help solve all those.
Yeah, that would definitely. And also, I didn't know it is there is a legal way to do this. I always thought it's some under table stuff, some shady stuff we're doing.
Yeah. So I first learned about this like right after I graduated college. So I was like, I was a finance major. I was like, I know about finance, this and this, and I had always heard about Dhukuti, and they were telling me, they're like, this is how it works, and I'm like, this sounds like a scam. Like this is, you know what I mean? Like this is like a Tibetan thing that doesn't make any sense. And I actually sat down, I like modeled it out. I modeled out all the numbers, and like depending on where you are in the group, and depending on how many people there are and how much the bids are, you can actually make a greater return than the S&P 500. So like the long-term average of the S&P 500 is about 6%. So depending on where you are, you can actually make almost 7 to 10 or 12%. And that also, it varies on the bids, because if the bids come faster, then you win a lot faster. And the people in the beginning, they're typically not making money because they're bidding high, but then they're getting the cash like at the present value. So then they can invest it and do something with that, which is also potential to make more than the S&P 500.
Right.
But yeah, I actually like calculated all this, and I was like, okay, maybe this isn't a scam or like this weird thing that Tibetan and Nepali people do.
Yeah, I also did some calculations, but I don't have like the financial background. So I was doing calculations, like doing some inflation adjustment, and there good return on investment is really good. Like better than all other like I think savings banks.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and then there is also like it is like based on trust between trust in the community, right?
Yeah.
That is one of the major risks. Think.
Yes, that is. I think that's the number one risk is the trust-based system, because there have been reports of people like taking the money and running away. It's very low, but that's definitely like something that does happen. But there was this guy. So the Mexicans actually play Dhukuti a lot.
Oh.
And yeah, they call it a tanda, Tanda. And there was some professor, he wrote like a whole, like his PhD thesis or something like that. He wrote a whole paper where he analyzed a couple thousand of these Mexican tandas across all of South America. And he found the default rates, which is like essentially like someone stealing the money and running away, was less than 1%. It was like 0.5% or something like that. So it was like very, very low. And the big reason is mostly because you do keep it within the community. And if you were to run away, the social stigma of like being that person, you're essentially like excommunicated. Right. Or if you want to come, every single person will know that you are untrustworthy and you were the person that took that money and ran away. You know what I mean? Like that'll follow you around. And through that process, then you are no longer allowed to play in other Dhukutis. And that kind of like prevents itself. And then the risk of, if someone were to run away, there is, I think, like a trust-based factor where like there are other people that might like have to guarantee your entrance into a group. So like, let's say like you were like your friend had joined, and me and you were the people that like got him in, and he ran away. Then technically, like me and you would be like the co-guarantors that were like on the line and would have to pay for him. So there is like a little bit of like a net. Obviously, like it would be like me and you would have to pay, which is like not something that we would want to do. Right. But that would be the safety net, and that's definitely an issue that we're working on trying to solve on the online basis.
Yeah. If it's not online, then it takes some of the community-based like aspect of it. Yeah. So if there's no gathering that happening, or then that might take some. So how are you planning to resolve it?
Yeah, so I think one of the most important parts of it is actually like the community aspect. And I really want to like keep that community part. So what we're doing is we're removing the inconvenience of having to show up every single time, right? Because it's like, it's a chore to show up every single month, right? It's like, you have to like go, but people still want to like be a part of this community. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to replace those like monthly where you come in and pay, but instead we're going to try to have like an event where maybe it'll be like once every half a year, 2 times a year or something like that. So then we'll host an event for the groups that people can come and get to meet each other, do a dinner, do something, get a couple of drinks, whatever the typical setup. Because right now I think what they do is that every month they'll have they'll go to a restaurant, and then they'll like pay for some food and then like only a few people will show up. Not everyone shows up. But now imagine we just did that instead of every single month. We could do that like once, like twice a year, and then it could be like people can show up, and then instead of like having to show up as a chore, you can show up as like, oh, it's a party for us. It's like an event. It's like something, and that way you can then have the community aspect.
Yeah, that makes sense.
No, the community part is pretty important. I feel like it's like how do we say that in Tibetan? Like if we had to like, you know what I mean? Like
Itu nangku je pensu kalau orda.
Yeah, mitangmala
nyamshu che jira. Nyamshu che la nende lago samarta ki kitu dujuk do jila ora na kondu thangma nyamdo ruru che jira.
mitangma 직 좀도 갈라 기부신 좀아. 디 말라와 che.
Di malawa che de. Di re di labdi yang shenda danda nganzo kisi da the online chewei na ni di kar yungur karsa de liga bet cha da kondu tengen sama da ngadi IRS ki yige pang mari sama ki small chin te chugure khane do chagor
네 안저 tax accountant, CPA, 다 망문이 내가 치도 돼요. 안저 공점 느껴지셔야 다 안디 창마 간신 나가오 다 딱다스와 디 this Nicola Sambelang more and hands the paperwork that should be talking about chisare. The control online so that any IRS ki digital tema hands the cash the condition chirna the hands this secret or this condition. In the tax account that the time cash chisare. Ani the Dhukuti online the join China ani hands the support data tapa the lot of tax la duala the support to China tapa.
Really, the Labda Zambayang Kalore, Dangandu, Nigi, Dhukuti Tsere, Ngala, ni Dhukuti Bitya Machine, ni Lojustin, Dangal Kepsang Jura. Dangandu Tama the online dosi drawing, ni Kepsang de Layang, Iris or to Kepsang the text Jawar and New Russia leader 100.
Dila tax mere, I mean tax mangsho the Ketchisho the Karela Natambu, legagi income tax tetana. And the shumla tax the tetsara. And the dijala interest income la chigara the investing chidwala. The interest income bula 3 mare. The shambachi bula 3. And the call get shame. The me mamunim do chuachidwala or the online to be tega mail and nakun the shade of the Munera Jumare and new the IRS the tax jora. And the kept on this satara. Kept on the call tax demo.
Ale, the young Sunso the
tax teo yana this Kawashasa in a Chixamata Hajin tax teo yana me Tamadin Sol Chubotora and the Kunzola kept some Musora in a mid Duna Denzoda Hajin bid Chumbochina Kunzo Munijina tax deductible right.
Ale.
Hajin kunzo pesha shora this mara.
Really.
Kunzo boomchik sayena ani kunzo bid tisum china kunzo hajala 70,000 topsa. Ani 30,000 loss chasa. Ani interest tax ki chitana 30,000 deductible chana dira. Ani kunzo income kazo yana 30,000 ki numa tax cha.
Oh.
Ine kunzo deep kola tax temore.
Ale. The Tamadani Kisi, the Mizu color around the online Tigudi, the Tana Tigudi Pem Boja was at the Mitsamatanda Tigudi Sawa season road to the Nitisi, any candidates Devachi or Ranga candidates the online Delzena.
The Tanda Hanzo online Dugudi, the Gotu Vala, this substitute Hanzo, me group Chunju, Hangmala, join Chechma, Hajin. Mi 상마 join치나 this 단다 각부도 차사 아니 당불로도 갈 이체오라 미 상말라
네네
아니 당부 이체니 한저 단다 group pilot group 돌라지 한저 pilot group 니 써도 돼요
알레
아니 한저 미님도 단다 대화치 한저 디 고축도 요 한저 디 다와 2025 January end of January mid January 돌라지 한저 고축가 답수 당기요 아니 디 코르라 join치알라 아니 한저 지나 email chinadirang ala and dewacha my email address of the link to jala chanadire in it on the product shamba chigyo on the product chick the online dugudira in a new adi mi changmala product on the sawajik soya the dugudi tracker la chigare
ale
handa da dugudi topna bidding nyamdo da ni mangsho condition topyore 가주 topyore 오늘 고치민도
네
아진 아 digams shure ani samsung interest do ani bidding digams chi ani digams raso ani mi when you dawachik la digams raso ani dawai shamba jala digams raso do mangu 고치민다 단다 transparency la
네
ani 한저 거리 소열라나 the online Dhukuti tracker ani di mitangma ta la transparency o di dawala mi digams pinchidu o pesha digams collectioni digams radu 아니 digams rani digams hadu oh 아니 di hadu wala double winner chadu condition double winner chare changma de anjo line item takta soyo
네
아니 di 한다 한저 group 숨시 냠도 냠도 내가 도치도 돼요 한저 근저 Dhukuti tracker 소알라 미창말로 transparency 소알라 이제 단다 this tracking chadi Google Sheets bullu or WhatsApp group bulla di digams tari di mi dilla pesha diutore do laida 아니 아주 tracking system 직소요 미 장마 님이 freela 딜라 단다 Dhukuti manager 돌아라 군저 냠도 join 치르나네 디 이메일 당다니 한저 디 서저래 디 online sign up 치저래 아주 information 딜루 아니 미 수트 다이처나 트랙 치저래
네네. 또 디디 웹사이트로 지금 임나 앱도
website, yeah, web app.
네네. 맞았어. 예, 아니 다 도치 말리도 좀 많이 랑다 제당 디기 칼로 필 만라 몽불라 레가 치사도 파이낸스 치샤 페데 AI 강을 치도 네 company pet kalau the Morgan Stanley la dizamba pet rinang investment ki kondu makshu chiwo jar kondu portfolio pe manage chiwo din nang na lega chi shani yang startup na lega ta khanda ma zu sang ma nyamnyu ki so ge ta startup ki so la bora ta di chi 근데 계약이 인데 컨디스레서 네 카르치네 네 랑다 스타트업 수구도 상도 카르치는 중
디 마다 부근이 당부라고 컨디션 나오래 고추가 디 비즈니스 소소 entrepreneur 치토스 디 부근이 된데도 삼당데요 비즈니스 저치알라 한조 니마 부구 당부 인도갈라 마이 낭미기 워런 버핏 기탭도 중요성알라
할래
워런 버핏 기탭 아니 워런 버핏 기탭 녀도갈 디콜로도갈 아니 investing the finance qualities 인파사 아니 딜로 아니 investing the finance 도갈라 Warren Buffett ki stock manager, portfolio manager do yara.
Right. Really.
Kunzo company bula lega chire ine soso ki own business ore. Kunzo ki business company bula chire. Kunzo la clients yore, kunzo invest chi, kunzo pesha di manage chi, and kunzo soso entrepreneur do chasa. Ani nga dene do samla tong de nyama puguni. Ani condition chasa na ani entrepreneur takpa chitos. 아니 Labda 두두갈라 오케이 당부 냠융사 or something. Morgan Stanley도 레가치 파이낸스 냠융사 아니 디 Morgan Stanley company 배 총벌아 이 배 망보여도 갈라 아니 디두갈라 corporation 총벌 불러 컨디션 레가치 오래 디고 투스 아니 디 총벌도 찬 파이낸스 오글라 기마보라 technology go to some 디 technology shift 오라 아니 technology 냠융사도 아니 디 machine learning the data science 디 불 도인 바 아니 디아 단다 컴퍼니 샴바직 omnicom 라지거 디 advertising company cha장래 아니 군저불라 컴퍼니 총보도 불러 같이 봐 아니 가 그래서 나랑 컴퍼니 고추기 전화 스타트업 내가 지나 이야기 섬스 간진 디 컨디션 스타트업 내가 지나 디스 마다도다 아니 가 스타트업 내가 저래 아니 가 시티즌 컴퍼니 라디 미갸 마시메레 미갸 배춘줄 벨린 아니 미기한 란한다 안저 engineering the product team 운의 product 송해든죠 미십주도 어쩌보래
할래
에준줄
와 그거 빼야 못쓰다
scale 배충보여 미창마 학과야 the universal new york the 아릴라다 여라 미pen junior다 벨린
할래
미창마 내가 슈기압니 치대더라 근데 디치당하고 tus 안저 디 컨디션 딩야밍산 아니 디 라사도 갈라 아니가 타도 갈 가르쳤었나 마통스라 마창만 step by step 창마통스 company 총보를 내가 지나 갈리 내가 진 career ladder 도처를 섬스라 그래서 guaranteed in a ceiling the cap 열다 ceiling digams 마시메르 아니 company 총만 도도갈라 아니 군저 equity data stocks stock잖아 안저 percentage 빼준지로 데이터 company 빼 총보잖아 millionaire도 chance라 the percentage 빼준지 1% less than 1% of the company 아니 나 가도 내가 지나 나 니마 딱 바꾼다 내가 지 weekend 내가 지나 나 추어 디금 스타일이라 나 CEO 추어 10 times but upside 아니 나라 섬도 당도 갈라디 그래서나 나라 risk 디고 I want to take the equity risk upside 참아고 downside 참아고 그래 약부 배차나 나 깔래 빼기야나 아니 나라 야가 차더라 나 깔래 막이나 아니 나라 약부 참아더라 그래 I don't know some longer. That's risk equity profile or something.
저때 디 따당데 나로도 같이 나나 콘조 연지 내가 싫다 제 먹어지 캡상에 너빼 10 times take 뭐야 40 60 times 콘조 이거 망 제이다
아니 디 스트레스 망아 risk 망아 이네 reward 망아 여라 디 상마 so 담거디 디 치트나 마치트나 니가라 섬스타 ngara dende machina ani jema galore ngara this regret to share some so my chitos my chituire do samyora neta tanda try choose ani fail chana fail chare fail chare ine regret mera
Yeah, that's true.
티 catch show there.
Ngangema jagala college to this the pet college to the re college to this but oh na startup idea raslo college trouble chin do did it do
나보다 더
do
Oh yeah.
근데 돈에 startup 제가 제래 네 다 로숨스 제래 로숨스 제네 to somebody 나도 자갈은 유 pushing grand entity 건도 business plan the trade in grand the trade 건도게 아니 training 때도 상마치 건도 YC도 제네도 진짜다 아니 건도 상마치래 이네다 타마들의 디 fail 차사 네 fail 차네 베네 디기 냠뇽지어라 대야 페블로네 라야민조 로프라난도네 쳔르네 오늘 전 수수 마나무 주죽치네 파티시페이치네 라야리미시 근데 윤금다 냠니하고 야 데딩네 데시
군저 비즈니스 미 체 정말 딱 발라야 군저 로니 MBA 도니 셔라 초메레 로직 몰라 내가 소소 치다라 상마 고치래 돼 오늘 비즈니스 냠님도 고쳐
제제제
마디 나다 로관님아 한저 2017 로 어디 쳤을로 7 years ago 로 안저 소소 인가 스타트업 고자 탑지당이 안저 스타트업 당부 마다 로관니 안저 내가 치대 되어래 이네 안저 내가 치사도가 아니 건달라 아니 안저 스타트업 고자 탑지당이야 아니 안저 트라이지 안저 앱스토어 가나 앱스토어 디 참마도 소아지 탑지당이 아니 디 failed 쳤어 이네 한저 디두가라 타마 고츠 마사 condition the product condition sales 치고래 product 주고 소니 디마레 marketing at 치고래 sales customer interest social media 데 망부로 치야 여라 한저 engineer the product 미도라 한저 다스티 소나 아니 미 레이드도 삼사 디치도 마사 이네 딩가 민사라 인테 젤사와 데도 칼라
레레레 다 등은이스 근데 랑기 남주 컬러다 나도 다소소소게 비즈니스 스타트업 체인 드라잉 삼나양지 디고라다 소소선바나 다디고라야 나 캡상인 거 말에 라샤레 양 말에 다 디낭싱다 나 강이 디티 니시티 숨티 시티라는 소소선바나 다디치는 누구라 mambu지 때로도 뭐양 치랑게 응엔 삼주게 다 드네도 강이 드네도 테이르 삼주게 마인 비힌다 강이지 unexpected 강이도 지 challenges도 간도 더 수강 디 스타트업 지디 점바
스타트업 라 컨디션 나왔다 당부 고추가 아니라 problems 망부도 차이를 삼사 이네 오늘 지도가라 디 셈볼라 가리요나다 미체볼라 오늘 가리야 때 만나도다
레레
아니 컨디션 나왔다 there is no real solution in a chidador solution tak pas sawa sodador problem mandalle de dere ani solution a sawa mamu chadador ngalana ngai problem thanda khari chombodo di samso ine digams chombode hago mas di 한쪽이 target client di thanda kunjope chidangdiora di in green dora 간조 딱 봐 내내 진치요 안절로 니슈숨 주 내내 치대대요 한진 진치오라 디 융대들도 여라 아니 디 behavioral change 디 미님도 치도라 이네 마카리 통스나 기사 군적이 치도갈라 band-aid solution 나이래 여라 디 미직 파츠 problem 디 solve 치도갈라 군적 band-aid solution도 쏘다대요 example juk teonta Dhukuti dodogal라 미상마 빼셔 넘기 캐시 파주 제대로라
제제
이네 군저 가르치니 진짜 가르치들라나 미상마 계지다 안저 벤모 지나디라 젤 지나디라라니
제제
딜라나 band-aid solution이야 네 군저 디 problem 강자 통기면도 디 춘주 직보 디 solve 지야 탑스당이다 infrastructure 상마 이네타 problem 춘보디 미상마라디 삼라당만 기거 당거라
제제
디스카워도 완전 inset behavior 든죠
레레 나 문이다 컴부 커뮤니티즈게 패드 마케팅 미기 behavior change 하러 컴부 저승배 어떤 거라 야
어디 집라우디 당부 비즈니스 고추가냐로도 이 말한라 the problems, the fears that be mambu여라. 고추가 the 방금 leap of faith 또 레이모라 미. 아니 가르치니 고추가 the exercise secure the Tim Ferriss 하고야. Tim Ferriss 기 co-author 그 뜻 방법이요. The 4-hour work week, tribe of mentors, philosopher, book writer, author, 삼로당만 이제 님바로여라. 니 거의 challenge이거라. 그 blog post, facing fears 도 지금 아니 거의 problem 불러 가르치려나? You write down every single fear you have, and the worst thing that could actually happen, if that were to happen. Like, nga di business fail 차이래. 아니 수체 nga 디젤라 가이 말해 디제니 아니 nga 배셔 상마 쇼르기래 가르치 치라. 아니 디젤 삼로 당도 갈라 배셔나 사우로 sound 치다.
Right. It is.
You know, 운에 차나? Would your life actually be over? Like if you lost all your money, you lost all your business failed, everything went bad, do you think you would still be able to survive? And when you write it down, it becomes real. And then you think, actually, if that were all to go wrong, I still have my family. Oh, I still have my friends. I still, like I could, worst case scenario, I could go back and just do my regular job. I can go back and get another job.
Really?
And it makes your fears real. And when it's real and tangible, then you can face it.
Oh, that makes a lot of
When it's not tangible, then in your head it could be anything.
Yeah.
It's like the scary monster under the bed though, But tadugala, it's not as scary.
Really?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it did. That exercise really helped. Pero watches.
Tadi takalo ore ngandu kidang poba nang pobe kisu nang ro imbenda ji yang susu ngandu dimera da kidang gi chane o michi startup chaire ngandu invest chaire ga chi ti community ro ke yamara indi ro chenge ro dindi koya kitchen thung de kan ro adu chimu
ketchumbo pero watch sare ento sare ine 한조 community 한조 쪽파디 단다 becomes investment chairla risk la 단다 다리여나 맨 하고 마스 한진 미페 충포도 이나 아니 데 베셔술라데 아니 startup la investor chair라 in a startup investment risky라 95% of startups failed ora dilla 한조 investment profile similar 당도가라 startup the VC do later funding 이 오니지나 last story. 방법 미상마 retirement account 아니 S&P 500 이제 정말 당부 고쪽으라. 안저기 levels 오이라 levels. 안저 대바 community 단다 startup investing 나 단다 레이어서 말했어. 방법 안저 base the foundation this 마음 거를. 이네 this 요나 미 this 초보도 요나 이 펜토이레 로바치도이레 이 innovation the 사워도 짓고 주갈라 아니 단다 파주 따도갈라 startup 페퍼 startup도 되네 시라면도 technology 거다 미타마 사가 the business 톨로 종아 the antiques or the magic gamsto the 총가 고추도 이나 단다 online business the online 기시라 technology platform도 막 통마스다 in addition, anzo hackathon dinja, anzo GTPN hackathon chadi. Dilla this inspired chalara. Dil samlo tangda anzo is like peba loptu mangoyara this computer science, the coding, the tangmajanga. Anzo that technology skills yara. Skills the application anzo community la chlopa chituna. And it depends on sorry. Tigina anzo non-profit 미망보다 non-profit 기 배셔티스 레트나 아니 슝기 군저 non-profit 라 배셔 망고 도네치라 군저기 this allocation non-profit even technology platform 라 로봇 쇼드나 아니 the skills 디 고추가 디 사자도다
제가 디자말 내가 간주 디강 디스커스 체라 탄다 디 headspace
Headspace.
Yeah, nganzo diga just kesi chumi ba di nanglo la tsuan samaji popa gachi nangkyo dan popa gachi chi kom cha dang dan de kan samgyo ra. Ara uni china chi nga dharang samgyo ra da kala orem popa gi bet marab ni marab nganzo rikan la bet tangemani marab ni marab dos ma pas chini lenjo ra tu sama. Pala ga amla di mesel su kali jamni ma pas che ya jami gi segal ne tu pe tenu chini ta kali pe mo jane ma lenjo ra ti de yang chi digan kepsan ra na popa ra ora la ja
Tata. Headspace dum the bit crazy there. Mi kawachik ko kore Nepal de na or Dharamsala chik doni ko pepa gombala chik meditation da gomgya thamajang. Ani ko ari lapado ani di jangyo thangma le ani ko company chik chuda Headspace la. A $1 billion meditation app, all based on the foundation of Tibetan Buddhism meditation do era. Di indogala hanzo pepa minchi kanji go chula mer. Hanzo chikpado dani jim. Shama chiga era di butter tea la chik do. Michi hanzo pep Dharamsala la or Nepal la chik do. And butter tea tungya hanzo. Pet tukbu butter tea do dande. Ko di idea di le ani di ko la healing benefits or yore dola. Ani company chik ko chuk do butter tea gi chik. Ani kora millionaire do chas. And it's Charles only. In the idea, the concept sama hanzo pepa gi culture do ra. Himalayan or culture. Hanzo entrepreneurship some of the net na mga yana hanzo the idea mangu do era hanzo pepa mi dinzo chupo akwa do nde.
Tadangi rang la santa nganzu popa gi the ari lenju gi thanda nganzu popa gi community di ji kunzu gi thanda khalawur VC fund dindi chagi invest chagi tusude thanda le smare sini ji thangbu state mangbu chi do la gora the basics of kor la ra ta di in zamaya this personal finance kan lego santa ji popa popa new la donge ni new la de denge che ra ani dala khatsis como sumdong shidong si monthly income de enju jina ji kogi income the countries so kocha jab saving mom but then chi khandi chi chin ya bo
le tangbu kechesho di karlana investing the personal finance kechesho karlana habits dira the decision thematic sorera ani jela de deore
ale
di ladu gala dawa takpa pesha kharichuyena samlo tanga marta ajin takpa samlo tangma ani sawa chenchi dicha chado wala ani discipline da tangma lai do decisions it tangbu logo tukdu gala kharina di Dhukuti ste ani samlo yapo chintang hanzo di kharichuyena yara ani di jela shera samlo tanga marta di ladu gala ta pesha khajiyona tangbu rent to pesha teora rent jela ani retirement account the company gi retirement account chi yona ibula kunzo khajulu thuna lure era ani di jela direct deposit do yara pesha paycheck ni sharkya Robinhood hina the Charles Schwab hina khari investment account the pesha khayona direct deposit sharkya teora kumu khajiyana kumu gya hina kumu ngapchu hina $500 karina the direct deposit automatically tangore ni di indugala tawa takpa hanzo decision di somogora ani stock kari invest yurelana unelana even the best people in Wall Street yara they can't beat the S&P 500 in the long run
ale
yara hedge funds investment funds karina in the long run over 20-30 years S&P 500 typically beats everyone indugala best decision just buy low cost index funds and just keep putting money over the long run you will make a lot the compounding interest is the 8th 9th wonder of the world in the long run in compound the most important part is time mitama investing the dikola pesha samla tangwala they want shortcuts. I want to be rich tomorrow. 아니 데파트 돈도 갈라 cryptocurrency even stocks in the GameStop 가리나 다리 야파도 갈 미타마 쌍이라 추고 차야 답상이다. 디디 각쇼들 financial discipline 소속이 habits 디. 아니 long term 불라 decisions 뉴가 소투나 야길. 아진 decisions 그락바 소드나 there's a higher chance you'll make wrong decisions. Yeah.
아니 단다 데니도 ngaran kedo samutanaра지 디기 소소기 पेशासो युंगा데 장가라 체바 민주지 딱버리시 하야디 찍발 하야죠 라스트라 오프도 디기 맹에만 달라이나 पेशा 뉴뉴 달라 뉴뉴 소위나 네 장가날 하야데 랑자체 네 양지 पेशा मंबो सागे दाल मंबो रागिना 탄다 도이나 मंबो रागि오 वे나 양지 뱅 하야데 찍발 하야데죠 디 칼라 칼치는데 차고 소소 디스플레인 메레 야무나지 사이콜로지컬 지 도더텔라
칙디 discipline 메르라나 the spending habits the 만나마다 차이라 이네 차도갈라 미상마 people are very consistent the 소소기 spending habits so condition order the subconsciously 미상마 spending becomes so 차도데 베샤 이제니 Pesha the bank account ni lega ni bank account changanyala sharkia tangore into the investments into another fund mataba kharichila na nyamanga lega chido wala bank account niyo ya chik marangi bank gangza different era the bank chik bula ni la mata bank gangza different chik yora bank chik bula my sharkia savings bank account chik that buluyo sheba chik being I checking nga thari di dawa spend china di re become sim de chichole ma thondu gala some social di mewado thora do leda chik savings bula sharka do chik my investment account bula sharka tang ninga digam smash ha mewado yara ning di takpa zero do chade de ine surdela khali save ya parde de yara the social habits the social gi infrastructure, like the support system that you build around yourself, will help your own weaknesses. There's always going to be your friends asking for dinner, or vacation this random di quality some of them wrong.
Is around this. And kind of curse the ta manzo mambuji samban and the nida yang and hagba ngarang washiba the popa zona ina atanda lo chungjung race retirement the tandazamata be lo chung relax da dila ani 콘솔지라 countries convince chegorda means that you the interest compound chire look larger.
네. 안주님아 Morgan Stanley 레가지도 wala 안주 church 겨라. 미직 로 니슈레 아니 retirement account 가리나. 다와 딱바 구무 납기았어 루에질다. 아니 언제나 다와 딱바 말해. 로 니슈레 아니 히퍼첸 붐직 지와셔샤. 아니 미직 로숨줄에 아니 코 붐마스 올르르다 아니 군전이자 60 years 차도갈라 65 years retired 차도갈라 술레베셔 망아 여 삼기도 미 로충아디 베셔벳 망아 차이데
알레
아진 코 로추스 니라디 사도아 아니 the compounding interest 디 칼리칼리 야 비치레 the number exact don't quote me on that. In a chart you get the link to the 10 years difference 기도. Over time the compounding interest will increase so much.
네.
팽길 디 로춘주도 알디 셔라 고치면도. 이네 Marata 30, 31, and my retirement account 22 ni 고츠라 college coach tani. 아니 다스님만 샤드 되어래. 로 숨쉬 스타드 두갈 충주 칼리칼리를 내더라. 로 주스하더라. 야 파르기도. 그러거나.
네.
아니 the 항상 the compounding average how must it's hard to explain when 로 충주 누가 this impatient 도 차이도.
Yeah, that's really
patience the cockshore. The Charlie Munger lajigara. He's Warren Buffett's partner. And investing in general, investing the best investors are the ones that can sit on their hands later. That means don't do anything. They're the best investors. You pick something and then you just wait. It's a lot more simple than we think.
딱 기지 양카싱 어도 단다지 딱 딘디 어카운트 칼라오레 디도 메베나 카시 딱 포럼 케다 디도 나 소소 팔루야 메베나 양 소소 랑게 딘디 루나 단다 간조 로빈후드다 로타 아이 칼레 틱도
Roth IRA or 401k or Roth IRA home.
딘디도 양 소소 employer 같이 디 로바 지메 소소랑 루네 디 루야데 decision degree country and the mind machine that touch ya in the year.
Roth IRA the mangsho tax jela investment retirement account. 아니 dia pengire ajin so traditional legagi mena the secondary option yakshore ajin the normal retirement account the kunjo tax te niela specialuira. And the tax the 65 years old when you retire the tax difference the 5%, 10%, 35% the difference the investment account the compounding cha yora digi mi some pen toide but niwadi di mena ani Roth IRA so income tax tetare ta special hajo the Roth IRA will 아니 직받아 잘 the Roth IRA and retirement 도 야 받게 아니 이내 retirement 차도가라 tax 때 먹으래 at the end because you already pay tax at the beginning. Roth IRA dia 저수 고충이 company 디자 망고 열었다. Robinhood 지여사래 심박하래 Betterment, Wealthfront, Stash Invest 이들도 약고 열어 건성마 is a fintech 도던데. the invest to yakure makari jirna the long term investment mitama direct china yakurera ani mitis the investment check I dodi sumutero era the game did you invest in this Nvidia the Harina Coinbase karichi chona the invest check this so okay I'm only using this much to invest to play almost like fun money do era. Teaching a deal. And the desire instinct do invest shala era. Humans have a tendency for play do together. And so invest share. Ani mitama part to invest do already share do with this excited do chan guide do ande. Ne so limit share do thongbu. Shamba ani gambling do chasa de chumu chetani.
Rish, the gambling now. Nema the Nisangu Kisia, and stock market the party but Mancha gambling do Rishesra. The money Susu research che company the money how coaching Nangulope, Pamamboyora to some analyst chin Tanguni, Tanguni kept some rusters and Sonjan Tanguni gambling chagmar. She don't gambling do tongue.
Mangsho research era chimara tas o newsla di akudu do jeg o misha waje lasso do lan ani invest do mi mangsho momentum trading do la
ale
adu wala momentum yora o 당부 analyst ki yakudo dula ani mitis ko ani mitis o nenema kos ani momentum yora wave do the wave ledu wala some price ya pargido 이 장마 다스 momentum trade chatab sangyo ta kunjo wave this 통도 wala the wave ang chuma tab sangyo kunzo hago mero hanzo wave early or at the end of the wave quality na mena hago mera kunzo momentum trade chat tapje dange anjin mi mangsho research o chimar Mangsho company ki financial do ta shada go to mare the kale the effort lui mare
ra pe mambu lo ra mambu do si mambu cha gni che wo ji re ta ga da yang in so ge ta pesha 직 사야데 개침보라야 소 사야데 다 사당 드니도 체레스라 칼로르 담보 아니 아니 디지로 디지케트 조선 카르사 인덱스 펀드 드니라 치나 스텝 담보도 칸디도 인덱스 돈 루야리면 리타이먼트 드니나 루야리 칸디도 체르 스텝 도 주면 소소 페샤
네네 당부 retirement 가진 내가 연합 retirement account 당부라 아니 가진 tax before tax 차사 retirement 당부 니와디 when 당부 거리 걸어나 the emergency fund 거래 emergency fund 나 6 months times however much you spend in a month 아진이 가리 legal 직 차이나 or economy 직 차이나 or 낭미라 가리 차이나 지가라 배셔도 emergency fund 6 months is recommended so dawa takpa 가리나 $1,000 if you spend $6,000 in a savings account for emergency. Ni changame. The 6 months ki emergency fund set up chasana. Ani di jela. Okay, now we get into index funds or Roth, the Roth IRA if you want more retirement. Ani index funds jela. Ani if you want to get more personal stock investing doera. In mangsho digamsla dire.
Angudi kalau social emergency fund is nyar andi jene legal yoina di karsa yeah retirement
mujhe na achik miss just the mi mangula debt do yana the index funds nila debt the payoff chine agere
alele credit card
debt yana or school bills school debt shambakari debt yana 당부 dia matana yagir ajin digi interest rates beto yana di khali anzo investing to do la compound chaira in a debt la besha interest di ya part the joda de ajin the interest ki anzo la company do la maybe a 30-year mortgage chaira for 15 years you're mostly paying interest principal la machame mangsho interest sama ted de ndi do wal data tana yagiri
the kisi mi mortgage do na mortgage ngene te ure yamna mortgage okay that is
mortgage ta 30-year shana yagiri kanjin bishop mangu mena the invest shana yagiri kanjin 30-year mortgage sha ani 30 years jela te tuna pe ure te matuna khamba chongdu gala thanda the house khamba the appreciate chaira ndila thanda pesha sotuiredi
ni tanda karsa the credit card lara yang credit card debt ne lara ta credit card de spending habit do kashi yang bet max out che chida minimum ka sha max out chin do ya ni kashi yang tanda nga mambu tools ne lamge ra kalo point down credit point down credit score ni tuya ja credit card pe max out chiur kashin up credit score pe jo de ya de tan la
credit point the credit score di mandara hanjin credit points the for every dollar you spend you'll get a point ani credit card TCL yana times 2 or times 3 do chida restaurants or travel do la de in it points the karelana reward points so the credit card punzo mga pejo tang juala the points theory in jela chadu wala points mangbu satuna ani the namdu ticket do junior chana or kundu gift reward do chana or tamsam kundu khajilana the points ki the credit card debt at each other in the credit points
points
credit score di karelana the sosogi credit rating the ladwala the credit card or how trustworthy you are with debt the credit score ani credit card kanchin gorelana ani credit card the debt lendugala dawa tapa mi the debt patte thuida minda ditawra debt di patte matuna ani credit score wa doira kyo doira the credit card max out chini credit score yaga chatu mara di das jo sompe mang tangra ani dawa takba di full the credit card pap besha che matuna ani di credit score la dis kyo doire ine companies 인조다 credit card debt dawa takba tetuna kunjo che ga mare the credit card company pesha kanjin soire so credit card debt dile ani pesha thama phamate the leftover payment the minimum to whatna do let's say $1,000 in debt minimum payment $20 or hina was it $800 $980 or so the 980 gi was the interest rate then chumbo 가져라 16% 17 20% 도 charge이라 나와 딱 봐. 네가 안 나와 딱 봐 interest payment 있제 되더라. interest payment credit card company 기대셔 소야라. 군저 business 디 밀어 spend 망아치야 답상 게라. 이네 미티스 칼라이드나 credit card 고래 아니 credit score 디 develop 쳐라. 디 약보래 아니 credit card요. 티스 페주당. 니 나와 딱 봐 full 배셨지.
오케이.
디테트나 아니 디소소 credit score 디 티스 야가 쳐도래. 이네 credit card 디 additional already. In a way it's its own drug. 여기라. 지금 swipe 도 갈라 배셔때 뭐라 한다. 제가 저거라. 이도 갈라 credit limit 충분히 저거잖아. 미망부 swipe 치 아니 디 배셔 담아 당하면죠. 아니 제가 credit card debt 도 찾아대. 아니 디 그런 거라 디 issue도 차야 돼. 이 gambling debt 이나 or credit debt 도 이나 디 그런 거나 problem도 차야 돼. 이네 credit card 라 interest이라 interest이야 part 줘도 돼. 백업 차야 돼.
The credit card 이나 디 color da but full amount tetumna ya register the interest ko chama ya
sure
the kisi michi da odanga credit score jo resha nga loan de ra la kale khapo sare ni di ya che ta la ni tips to tricks to her career
니코르랑 오늘 100% 아시라 하고 마스다 네 망쇼 가릴라나 디 payment sama ya pushing jore kira the credit card debt kazuya dawa takpa becomes $100 $100 te $1,000 $1,000 te ani over time if you can keep doing that it shows that you're trustworthy yara mi itedo yara reliable do indu wala so credit score ya pargire ani the credit score ya bu medu wala credit card 주고 말해 디 샴바 debt payments 얻는데 여라 인조야 this payment 딱딱 때 맞나 the credit score new doira minimum tena this matia de duksore no payments ani tinsa kunjo extra tip do na kanelana mi sama rent deira rent pesha and for the longest time rent payment the credit score la the ad shiyo mare
ale
ta tinsa kunjo company sawa de do so the rent payment te di the credit score gang la ad shiya tapjitanga diachik ani 한조 company the extra feature 즉 고쳐 가지 삼았던 게 나나 the Dhukuti payment 딱 받잖아 한조 credit score 라 펜토야라
알레
아진 Dhukuti payment 미참아 the debt 오라 다와 잡아 loan issue Dhukuti 배셔 찍어 미스 치멜라나 credit worthy this 망아 차사 그래서 디콜라 디 한조 라가치 돼요 네 나니 디 펜토야라 credit score 야도 잘 in a 망쇼 디 다스 don't miss payments. 아니 카프를 나오면서.
네. 다드니 땅한조 갈라오다 다 탄다 랑 디치라 카스다 에아간 내가 뭐 부치레 또 등선베 에아라도 미 참마베 기회로 차다. 디기 차고를 닌데는 난다 또 니도 니삽시 조어라 니도 니상아 고조어라 다 next year 라니 지랑게 오다 technological advancement 디도 look forward 해도 칼칼이 통 AI 나노 니네데 멤버 이네데 카리네
기사 AI 맞다 니마 딱봐 AI 배정기요 안진 직디 코딩 님도 펜토이다 아니 코딩 상마 디사 군저 갈라이드나 the new the number one coding language is going to be English. 아니, 다스 인진이 build this for me, build this feature, build this thing. 아니 코드기 AI기 그런 거라 코드 정말 튀도.
네.
아니 단단한 니마타바 배정도 걸라 단다디 삼좀 깔레도 라이도 80% of the way do. 아니 the last 20% 말하나 삼바탕 this fix 도 지야라. 인자 제말로 90% 쳐도나 내가 살 가징하라 말라 workload bit 렐라 차이라. 니와디 unser AI voice mode the chat bit 야가 쳐더라. 아디 군저 니냠도 배바지 루트나 배가사래. 디사 한저 낭민님도 try 테스트하지. 군저 네팔리 딱 빼야고 쉐이드.
그래.
빼야고. 테스트하지. 로반님도 테스트하지. 니마 우버 드라이버 클래스 네팔리 찍어도 콘님도 테스트하지. 나 네팔리 빼야고 쉐이드사.
그래.
네팔리 군저 네팔리 포멀도 쉐이드사. 이네 아주 파트 깨지셔도 네팔라 케니 네팔리 tikti chejamme ine ai palada ama kuzine sheyara kunzo try out test ajido wala ngara inji joshe kunzo nepali she ani patu keje shedo
vale
e awingdo tadi jema kunzo pebadi chik ad chitna e ingtao chasare di menam ai gi kunzo gi chik tagli dangida di software doji di samma nyamdo join chitna ani patu keje shet pe ingtao chasare
re
아니 შემ바가리요. 마티사 AI 님도 text to video 디 디나라라스 이 feature 디.
알레 관이 근디래.
open AI 기 Sora 라.
두두두.
아니가 마티사 비디오로 직서도 돼요. 이 다스 텍스트 치니. 이 디페 인터도 이제 단다 usage 그리어나면아 고츠마스 이네 인터도 다스 디스파도 파트스와라. 아니 შემ바가리요래. AI agents ला 지겨라. 디 문에 찾았나 아니 안저 정말 game changer like agents 나 가르라나 단다 가르침 비슷 단계로나 나 AI 님 느껴지시 build this feature for me 아니 AI 기 코드 집지 아니 맞출래 아니 맞다 okay this is good yes do this 또라
네
AI agent 나나 go read the news, write me an email summary, and send that to me every single day. Or go read my emails, look for any potential support questions, on the complaint, and reply to them and make sure that you reply in this manner. Action or customer support agent, anytime a customer support calls, talk to them and tell them this and this. Me replace the workflows replace I check the news and then I check these couple companies and then I read these stock investment and then I'm trying to get a summary. The action do action the next year very high chance. 수잔나 미탕마 develop chatter 당게 도는다. 이네 leaders 단다 그래. Claude the OpenAI 단다 약속 인사를. 아니 Gemini 진짜 Google 진짜 사와직 releases.
알레.
multimodal computer use. 근데 computer screen도 있다. 가리시에서나 근데 통계도 아니 니님도 대시자다 오빠도 잘라.
네. 나디 베네디다. 칼로르 나도 레가라 액추 조보 타르게다 라이다 나자도 디 디테임바 카르스디 아무 클라우드 디 소니 디
클라우드 소니
든데야고도
든데야고
나도 한 챗GPT도 인디로 레시다
디스케어다
야 콘도기 사고 코딩 퀘션도 든데야고 티더라 코딩 페야고 티더 나디 페지땅디바 아니 콜라 리미티다 리미티요 그래서 이용다 아니 라스 우투스 뉴신바다
Go to the cursor try chain back cursor.
Cursor try chain. Cursor the editor the.
Editor.
Ngadi ngema 단다 먼저 Lex Freeman 나 콘도 the foundation.
the video the
그거 시가 있지다. 내가 그냥 but interesting thought 통스 라이네. Cursor the 단다 응아타 매나로 선해야.
말해. cursor 니마타 봐 정겨.
야보대.
니마 낸데 야보도. 가진 단어 클라우드 배주당하디 code 소속이 IDE래. code copy 치 아니 the cloud bulalu ani the output ani copy ani patuluya.
Right.
Cursor bula kunjo tire ani all you have to do is click apply. Like it'll do the translation or it'll apply the code. Ende yabodo. And cursor uses the Claude as the underlying model.
Ale.
Yeah. $20 a month.
Ale.
Free trial 배제당다.
Yeah.
It's worth it. Yeah.
Nemang di ngadu nemang ikamni di ngadu di GitHub Copilot di len ra. The len di sambada kodo da cursor dan GitHub Copilot do ani ko pe yawu jemdo.
Mendo.
야구 문제 내가 아다 cursor 내도 진설에 삼사.
말해. cursor try it though. cursor 빈냐 봐도.
알레.
야, 나타 니마타 봐 cursor 배송네.
디 배주당 거 있다. 마음가 에이징기가 replace 마시나.
말해. 카렐라나 된데다. agent AI 참마도 is a multiplier times 10 do 이라. 다 소속이 0 coding 하거나 0 times 10, 0 to chasa. One times engineer, or I'm an okay average engineer, then you can become a 10 times. 10 times engineer, the 100 times chasa. It makes you more powerful, though, Chad. For now.
Yeah, that's big, interesting way to look at it.
Oh.
Great. Ani, tanga, tapos this some good, tanga, ngarangi, large language models doya. Yudonge color the kondo la data set pe mu feature ra. Kondo dadi ma kaine ma kondo ma output tongora output the random do tongor tange. Random the output chigore ne kondo yago the precision pe yago the randomness dera. Ande do dadi chidang
mostly the kind of a black box sora. 망쇼 가려다 statistical distributions 정말.
맞네.
근데 정말 the data condition order x to y do 여라. And data bit 충분히 샤사. large data do. 망쇼 가려다 the statistical approximations here. 간지 먼저 linear algebra do지. How can we get this huge matrix into a smaller representation to match what we're looking for? Yeah. 아니 OpenAI the ChatGPT 든저 condition 지르나 든저 next token prediction 라. 디인도갈라 the condition order. If you have all the information before, it has to predict the next word. Yeah. 아니 든저 거리 breakthrough 지르나 니마 치투아 티셔라. 든저 거리 삼라나. There's not enough data for us to predict, like, tomorrow it will be, what's the next word, like tomorrow it will be wet, tomorrow it will be dried, or yada, kunzo breakthrough if you give it a large amount of data with a lot of clusters and you train it, then it's able to figure out that statistical representation of that data. So then it can predict that next token or the next character with a pretty high accuracy. It has to be very specific. It's like train on only Shakespeare words and then tell me what the next word will be. And that way it can only talk in Shakespeare. It's not very generalized. But what they did was now you just throw it as much data as you can, which is like the entire internet, with a lot of clusters, a lot of GPUs, a lot of like compute, because it has to run these calculations. And then they gave it a long time, like months, and for some cases. And that was a breakthrough. And specific they didn't think it would be generalizable. But they're saying they're running out of data now. How was that?
Oh, really?
The internet 창마 data 창마 train 시사가 all the data that we have, we've already trained it. So the compute clusters, like the processing chips, so they're getting bigger and bigger. But we're running out of data. There's no more data. So they're saying the training level is leveling off. So now what they have to try to figure out is there's a couple challenges. They have to try to figure out how to get synthetic data, and that, if they can figure out, will be the key to unlocking the next level of AI. So do you remember there's a AlphaGo, the chess? No, the Go. The Go. You know the Japanese game? It's like the Go. So for the longest time, they couldn't beat the best human Go players because they kept training on against other humans, and but what they did finally was that they were able to have two AIs play against each other, and they would train against each other, and then that was the unlock to beat all the human Go players, and then it became too good. So right now, what we're doing is for all this AI, we're training on human data, right? But once we can have the AI create data, and then it trains on itself, then they think that it'll go past the next level, and then we might get AGI, which will take over everyone.
The AI korangi tandarang generate chinju data train china. At korang the generate chinju the train the cycle change chete venoko but the data sama tur quality chor do the pay come to chai dulaida.
먼저 단단히 약보 융tum이들라다 synthetic data, 먼저 the AI generated data, the 펜토이면들라다 단다. 먼저 전체 이네 the new problem, new challenge. 먼저 different architecture, different algorithm, different ways of generating synthetic data. The problem 먼저 face to the but there's no solution yet, but researchers somewhat dikorla tanda samsung there how to solve that.
So dini tangani tuzo os dressni 진다 covered 제로 신이 더도 돼.
That's the GTPN correlatis. The GTPN 냠도 그래로 2017도 닝아 join치. 아니 GTPN 개발라 당부고 쪽에 GTPN the Global Tibetan Professional Network. 아니 2017 라 나다 ngai robot sama hanzo finance lega chinge duala 배범이 so the professional network domendoa. 아니 한조 가리 삼산나 한조 group 사와지 고츠고 한조 professional Tibetan professionals 다 한조 network 지주야 한조 대화 지주야 파츠 로바치야 펜토알라 지고츠 고츠고 섬스 아니 한조 파츠 따도갈라 디 GTPN 라 디 고츠 차두 미션바기 델라 New York chapter 라 2010 도니 고츠도 아니 한조 조인치도 갈라 디 디스 한조 야다마로 디스 차야사베 아니 한조 조인치 한조 디 연계 고츠 아니 한조 다 한조 events 방부로 치요 다 단다바도 monthly 한저 networking event 도치 아니 디 Manhattan 한저 니마 COVID 냐라 다와다바 한저 networking event 도 미타마 한저 좀니 대화치 줘야 아니 냠두디 한저 panel talk the panel talk 뭐지 resume review mock interview 아니 한저 티사 한저 GTPN technology 아니 hackathon 도 차 치마 이네 한전 예만이 가르삼산나 nga college graduate chido gala arila mi mangbu college graduate chimel 한저 빙게 찍니 스토리래 배버 미 mangbu college graduate ching에 도멜 아니 nga 빙게 충아 nga 로숨 충아래 모 college graduate chido gala 한저 빙게 mangbu기 graduation 도도다 타 nga 빙게 연계 찍 충아 모 달로 graduate 치래 타 달로다 graduate 칭에 배버 땐네 mangbu도 college graduate 칭에 아디도 gala 한저기 Tibetan professional population 야 파르드다 로딱바 망아 천 한저 GTPN 간지거라나 디 미창마 소소 siloed다 isolated 미창마 코라코라 데시르 이네 한저 상마 Tibetan professionals래 한저 identity 직바요래 Tibetan professional 아니 한저 디키마 파라 디 one networking 파츠 치도갈라 한저 대화치저라 to know that we're not alone to know that we're part of something else part of something bigger 니와디 한저 상마 challenges, the problems similar face to you. Any hands of mentorship, the parts do it, how to negotiate salaries, these corporate, how do you deal with workplace politics? How do you understand who to mentor with? Sponsorship, mentorship. Or how to switch careers, how to move to a different company, how to network on LinkedIn. And the parts of intangible social skills on the senior low junior to senior they have an opportunity to give back. Junior people, they can tell us what's going on in the current day and age. We're seeing this on the ground, and then we can have a balance of understanding and exchanging information. GTPN the platform the go to in the future, it'll be good if that professional network or the professional community of Tibetans flourishes and gets bigger and bigger.
professional design ropa chitunara and the GTPN zonal ropa do chit to the do all mentor do chit to in the so give rangtangla nashing the tangible things in the like kala young pen on the two in the ditch ne apodu and the all Labda tons sang design the ropa chingimina kali kabu de ngemanga cho bokem do nga bokem do de zamba bokem nga ngadi mangchia doji kondu sis background la mandaya nga jan sis background yorta dinna ni da ji mangchia ke chesa do da khande landa le nga lega ra jubu ra gi samya ja da nga do ya ko sing da da ya ko ra nga la cha ja da ku chin mi lega ra mi da kar chin kondu shin da zama agu asyang lo pa ning ba ku de da ya nga do popa hakpaji the first generation dinis donge jimbaina asyangda agudan dinilane dosayomara derchinsa ondin zamani yangji kondo younger generation so in pen GTPN ropalona muni pentoya resh sang
오늘 ngadi 당부 모건 스탠리 레가지도 wala 디고추스 하지 어미 참마 통계라 아니 한저기 intern class bula speaker series 도 치르다 딜라도 wala company gi michesho yora MD managing director kunjok anjola kejeja shagale summer series michigles ko kamanga nila speaker di nga chala nga watch your intern class amdo nicole kejes oh hello how's it going, how's your dad doing, blah 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 do what kejes andos anya call line, who's that? He's like he's the main MD who's speaking. I was like, how do you know him? He's like, oh yeah, he's my dad's golf buddy, we live a block away from him. He's yeah, then the 항상 근데 가르치는데 차도 근데 얘네 혼자 대화 앞에만 오다 대화 얘도 갈라 혼자 대화를 로바로 치다 근데 네가 그리고 어째서 나디 라와도 디 레가츠도 갈라 it's not what you know, it's who you know. 이 애플리케이션보다 대신에 아주 GTPN the Tibetan Professional Network 디 고조다 한진 아주 job application 레터가 아니 아니마 boss 로바치도 갈라 resume 정말 따들려라 콜로브라 가도 코 브라운 나도 Brown University 그거 가르쳐라는다. If there's any Brown University, make sure you pull them out for me separately. Everything else you can filter. 아니 나 당부 filter로 차라. 아니 나 우리 정말 resume도 다 okay becomes first filter. 근데 코 가르쳐서 Brown University 도야나 show him all to him. 아니 나 거의 대화도 열어 the Brown University 님도. 이제부터 누가 미션 받이 college 직과도야나 high school 직과도야나 or background 직과도이나 먼저 extra benefit do da.
Yeah, really.
Ido wala hanzo 직과 치고라. hanzo position of power yodo wala hanzo pebala to 로바 치고라. Or like pebala do okay. Pebala okay. At least give him a chance for an interview or kedisha do yoda di. Di teba pento adi di godoa. hanzo la soso la machina. 수제 한절 시마라 주 era 근데
딩니 배울었다 딩 좀 professional 도 닝긴 도게 로가 치르치네 this 단다치 칼라워 로크라 통주던 도 समाने 연수수 로발롱갈리르네 야보다라 디지치펜 예 라스 네 다 드링기 다 문이 위켄나랑 그 망보이지 다도 정말 시안이 레벨라 내가 망보이지 도 정말 시안이 도 방법을 닝타고 투지는 시에
맞아 되게 붙였어 되게
yeah thank you
okay 잘 get